A man is coming to you. Funny how those words can sound like a warning or a promise, depending on how honest you've been with yourself. Open this now, they say, like urgency is the trick, like fear is the key. But urgency only works on people who've been sleeping. The ones who've been awake already feel it. Before the knock ever comes, urgency shows up loud, because people have learned to ignore whispers. It's not there to scare you, it's there to wake you up. Somewhere along the way, urgency got mistaken for danger. Like every fast heartbeat means something is wrong. But urgency isn't panic. Panic is chaos. Urgency is precision. It points, it highlights, it circles the exact moment you've been avoiding and says, look here. Most people run from urgency because it interrupts comfort. Comfort is slow, padded, forgiving. It lets days blur together without consequence. Urgency doesn't allow that. It snaps time into focus. It makes every second feel sharp, intentional, unavoidable. And instead of asking why now, people ask, how do I make this stop? That's the mistake. Urgency isn't an enemy. It's information. Think about how urgency appears. It doesn't come when you're distracted enough. It comes when you're almost ready. When something inside you is lined up just enough to handle truth. That's why it feels intense. That's why it feels personal. It's not random pressure. It's a signal that something has reached its moment. A decision. A change. A confrontation with reality you postpone too long. Urgency strips away the luxury of pretending. You can't delay forever. When time starts tapping its fingers, you can't overthink when the window is closing. And people hate that because overthinking feels productive without requiring courage. Urgency demands courage. It demands presence. It demands that you stop rehearsing and start responding. That's not a threat. That's clarity arriving uninvited. A threat wants you frozen. Urgency wants you moving. A threat clouds judgment. Urgency sharpens it. When urgency hits, the noise fades. You suddenly know what matters and what doesn't. The distractions lose their flavor. The excuses sound thin. The priorities reorder themselves without asking permission. That's not danger. That's alignment. The reason urgency feels uncomfortable is because it exposes delay. It shines a light on all the time you had and didn't use, on all the moments you sensed something needed to change and chose familiarity instead. Urgency doesn't judge that. It just reveals it. It says the waiting phase is over. The thinking phase is over. The hiding phase is over. People confuse urgency with loss. They think if they don't act now, something bad will happen. But urgency isn't always about avoiding loss. Sometimes it's about stepping into gain before fear talks you out of it. Sometimes it's opportunity knocking harder because it knows you don't answer gentle taps. Sometimes it's growth refusing to wait for permission. Urgency also exposes honesty. When time feels abundant, lies survive. You can tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, fix it later, become better someday. Urgency burns those lies clean. It asks one simple question, if not now, when? And if you don't have an answer, that's the answer. Not a threat, a diagnosis. There's a strange relief in urgency once you stop fighting it. The weight of indecision lifts. The constant background anxiety quiets down, because indecision is heavier than action. Waiting drains more energy than moving. Urgency gives you a direction, so you don't have to carry every possibility at once. It narrows the path, so you can finally walk. People who learn to read urgency stop panicking when it appears. They listen instead. They ask, what is being asked of me right now? Not what do I fear losing, but what am I being invited to become? Urgency doesn't demand perfection. It demands participation. Show up, choose, move, adjust later. Urgency also doesn't mean reckless speed. It means intentional timing. It means the moment has ripened. Acting too early is chaos, acting too late is regret. Urgency sits exactly between them, uncomfortable but precise. That discomfort is the price of relevance, of being present when it matters. When you ignore urgency, it doesn't disappear, it mutates. It turns into stress, resentment, self-doubt. It shows up as restlessness you can't explain, as frustration with people who have nothing to do with the real issue, because signals unanswered don't go quiet. They get louder in worse ways. Urgency is life tapping you on the shoulder instead of dragging you by the collar. It's the courtesy knock before the door gets kicked in, not a threat, a warning wrapped in opportunity, a moment asking for courage instead of comfort. Awareness instead of avoidance, movement instead of excuses, asking you to finally respond while you still have the chance to choose how the story shifts, and who you become when you stop mistaking the signal for something meant to hurt you and start seeing it for what it really is. Calling you into. Messengers don't show up when you're comfortable. They don't come while you're busy pretending everything is fine. They arrive at the exact moment avoidance collapses, when there's nowhere left to hide, when silence gets too loud to ignore. People think messages come randomly, but nothing important ever does. A messenger appears when you've exhausted your ability to look away. Avoidance is an art. People get good at it. They rename fear as patience, denial as faith, stagnation as stability. They tell themselves stories that sound reasonable enough to survive another day. And for a while, it works. Life lets you stall. Time lets you drift. But avoidance has an expiration date. Eventually, it runs out of space. And that's when something arrives to interrupt the performance. Messengers aren't always people. Sometimes they're events. Sometimes they're losses. Sometimes they're moments that feel too specific to be coincidence. But when they come, they all do the same thing. They force you to look directly at what you refuse to face. That's why people panic when messengers arrive, not because of what's being delivered, but because of what can no longer be avoided. The mind fights this moment hard. It tries to minimize it, explain it away, delay engagement just a little longer. But messengers don't negotiate. They don't care about your timing or your readiness. They arrive when avoidance ends, not when courage begins. Courage is built after the arrival, not before. That's the cruel joke. People don't like admitting avoidance feels safe, because it preserves the illusion of control. As long as you don't open the message, you can pretend the outcome isn't real. As long as you don't answer the knock, you can imagine whoever's outside will eventually leave. But messengers aren't there to be convenient. They're there because something has reached its breaking point inside you, and the universe has decided. You've stalled long enough. People romanticize messengers like they're blessings wrapped in kindness, but real ones are uncomfortable. They disrupt routines. They expose contradictions. They ask questions you don't want to answer. They bring clarity that ruins old excuses. That's why avoidance collapses first. Because as long as avoidance exists, the message would be wasted. When avoidance ends, reality rushes in. All the thoughts you push down surface at once. All the decisions you postpone demand attention. The messenger doesn't add pressure. It reveals pressure that was already there. The weight you feel isn't new. You've been carrying it silently, pretending it didn't exist. Until now, there's a strange precision to timing. The messenger never comes at the beginning of denial. It comes at the end. When the lie has been repeated so many times it starts sounding hollow. When distraction stops working, when sleep doesn't reset you anymore. That's when something shows up and forces alignment. People ask why now. Like, it's unfair. But now is the only moment avoidance no longer works. If it had arrived earlier, you would have ignored it. If it arrived later, the damage would have been worse. The timing feels brutal because it's accurate. Messengers don't care about comfort. They care about correction. Avoidance isolates you. It shrinks your world slowly, quietly. You stop exploring, you stop risking, you stop growing. And then the messenger appears, not to destroy you, but to break the isolation you built yourself into, to remind you that staying stuck is still a choice, and choices have consequences whether you acknowledge them or not. The arrival always feels personal because it is. It's tailored to the exact thing you've been avoiding. It hits the nerve you've been protecting. That's how you know it matters. Random noise doesn't sting. Truth does. Messengers don't shout. They stand there and wait, knowing that their presence alone is enough to dismantle the lie. Once avoidance ends, everything accelerates. Thoughts sharpen. Decisions become unavoidable. The future feels closer, heavier, more real. And that's terrifying for people who were surviving on delay. But for those willing to face it, there's also relief. Because pretending is exhausting. Running from yourself drains more energy than confronting reality ever will. Messengers aren't saviors. They don't fix anything for you. They hand you the responsibility you've been dodging. They expose the door you kept locked and force you to acknowledge that you're the one holding the key. What happens next isn't about the messenger at all. It's about whether you finally accept that avoidance has ended, that the moment you feared has arrived, that the message is here because you are no longer able to lie to yourself the way you used to. And now the only thing left is to decide what kind of person you are when there is nowhere left to hide. The truth is standing right in front of you, waiting for you to stop pretending you didn't hear the knock. Opening the message is never about curiosity. People like to pretend it is, but curiosity is safe. This is different. This is about accountability, stepping into the room and sitting down across from you without asking permission. The moment you open it, the story changes. Not because new information appears, but because denial loses its last hiding place. Accountability is uncomfortable because it removes distance. As long as something stays unopened, unanswered, unacknowledged, you can keep it abstract. You can talk around it, joke about it, postpone it. The unopened message lets you stay vague. The second you open it, vagueness dies. Everything becomes specific. Names, consequences, timelines. Responsibility. People fear accountability more than failure. Failure can be blamed on circumstances, bad luck, other people. Accountability points straight back at you. It asks what you did, what you didn't do, what you knew, and when you knew it. It doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't threaten. It just sits there, calm, patient. Impossible to argue with. Opening the message means admitting that your choices mattered, that your silence mattered, that your delays mattered, that your excuses weren't harmless. Accountability exposes how powerful you actually are, and that's what scares people. Because power means responsibility, and responsibility means you can no longer pretend you're just reacting to life. The mind fights this moment hard. It looks for loopholes. It wants partial accountability, selective honesty, controlled responsibility. It says, I'll open it later when I feel ready, when I'm stronger, when things calm down. But readiness doesn't come before accountability. It comes after. You don't prepare to face the truth. You face the truth and become prepared by surviving it. Opening the message also means surrendering control over the narrative you've been telling yourself. The story where you were misunderstood, unlucky, overlooked, mistreated. Accountability doesn't erase those things, but it reframes them. It asks how you responded, how you adapted, how you chose. And suddenly the story isn't about what happened to you. It's about who you became. Why it was happening. There's a strange clarity that hits when accountability arrives. The noise fades. The excuses stop sounding convincing. You see patterns you ignored, cycles you repeated, choices you justified. It's uncomfortable, but it's clean. Accountability cleans the fog out of the room. You may not like what you see, but at least you can see people who avoid accountability stay stuck in motion without progress. Always busy, always tired, always explaining. Opening the message interrupts that loop. It forces stillness. It demands honesty. And honesty is dangerous because it simplifies things. It removes complexity as a hiding place. It turns 1,000 explanations into one truth. Accountability doesn't care about your intentions. It measures outcome. You meant well, you tried your best, you had good reasons, all true and all irrelevant. Accountability asks what actually happened because of what you did or didn't do. That's why it feels harsh. Not because it's cruel, but because it's accurate. When you open the message, you accept that you are not a bystander in your own life. You are a participant, a contributor, a decision maker. Even your inaction was a decision. Even your silence was a statement. Accountability doesn't accuse. It records. It documents. It remembers what you wish you could forget. There's fear in this moment because accountability removes the comfort of blame. Once you see your role clearly, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to the version of yourself that believed nothing was in your control. That illusion dissolves the second you open the message, but there's power here too. Quiet power, the kind that doesn't need permission. Accountability gives you ownership. And ownership means you can change things, not instantly, not easily, but intentionally. You stop waiting for rescue. You stop hoping someone else will fix it. You realize the same hands that created the mess are capable of rebuilding something better. Opening the message doesn't solve the problem. It defines it, and definition is dangerous because once something is defined, it can be addressed. Avoidance thrives in blur. Accountability thrives in clarity. That's why this moment feels heavy, not because you're losing something, but because you're finally carrying what was always yours. The message was never about information. It was about positioning, about placing responsibility back where it belongs, about forcing a shift from reaction to ownership. Once you open it, you don't become perfect. You become honest. And honesty is the point where real change starts, where excuses run out of oxygen, where the story stops being about what you wish were true and starts being about what you are willing to do now, that you can no longer pretend you did. See it, and you didn't know, and it wasn't your responsibility because the message is open, and it's looking back at you. Asking what you're going to do with the truth. You finally decided to face encounters. Never introduce something new. They expose what's been quietly forming while no one was watching. People think silence is empty, like nothing is happening there, like time is being wasted. But silence is never idle. Silence is a workshop. It's where thoughts sharpen, where fears rehearse, where discipline either grows or rots. By the time an encounter arrives, the real work is already done. Silence prepares you whether you like it or not. Every unanswered question, every night spent staring at the ceiling, every moment where you felt overlooked or forgotten was shaping your internal posture. Were you paying attention, or were you numbing yourself to pass the time? Did you build patience? Or did you build resentment? Silence doesn't judge. It records people complain about being unseen, unheard, unnoticed. They think silence is punishment. But silence is training. It removes the distraction of applause and criticism alike. It forces you to listen to yourself without an audience. And that's uncomfortable because without noise, excuses get loud. You hear your own contradictions. You notice patterns you'd rather ignore. That's preparation, even when it feels like neglect. Then the encounter happens. A person, a moment, a message, and suddenly everything inside you reacts at once. Fear jumps forward or confidence stands its ground. Discipline takes control or chaos spills out. The encounter isn't creating that reaction. It's revealing it. It's holding up a mirror and saying, this is what silence turned you into. That's why encounters feel intense. They compress time. They make years of internal development visible in seconds. You don't rise to the occasion, you default to your preparation. And preparation isn't what you plan to do someday. It's what you practice daily in quiet. How you treated boredom, how you handled doubt. How you spoke to yourself when no one corrected you. People who avoided silence panic in encounters. They freeze, overreact, self-destruct, not because the encounter is too big, but because nothing inside them is structured to handle it. Silence could have built resilience, but they filled it with noise instead. Distraction, validation, constant movement. So when stillness ends and reality steps in, they have nothing solid to stand on. Others move differently. Calm under pressure, focused in chaos, grounded when things escalate. That doesn't come from talent or luck. That comes from silence endured properly, from sitting with discomfort long enough that it stops being scary, from thinking deeply without rushing to conclusion, from learning to exist without constant reassurance. Silence teaches restraint. It shows you how to pause before reacting, how to listen instead of interrupting, how to observe instead of assuming. Those skills don't look impressive until an encounter demands them. Then suddenly everyone notices. They call it presence. They call it confidence. They call it strength. But it was built when no one was clapping. Encounters also expose unresolved silence. All the things you avoided thinking about surface at once. Old wounds, insecurities, unfinished decisions. Silence stored them carefully, waiting for a moment where they couldn't be ignored anymore. The encounter is that moment. It presses on the exact places you left unattended. That's not cruelty. That's accuracy. People like to believe encounters change them. They don't. They reveal them. Who you are under pressure is who silence shaped. Who you become when challenged is who you practiced being when life was quiet. There's no shortcut around that. No performance can hide it for long. That's why some encounters feel like confirmation, like everything clicks, like the moment makes sense. Because silence prepared alignment. You wrestled with doubt already. You faced fear privately. You questioned yourself before the world did. So when the encounter arrives, you recognize it. You're not surprised. You're ready. Others feel exposed, embarrassed, overwhelmed. Because silence was wasted. Because time alone was filled with avoidance instead of preparation. And now the encounter feels unfair, sudden, too much. But it's not sudden. It's punctual. Silence is honest. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't rush you. It waits. It watches what you do when nothing is demanded of you. And whatever you repeatedly choose in that space becomes your reflex later. Discipline or distraction, growth or decay, courage or denial. Encounters are simply the reveal. The curtain lifting, the spotlight turning on. They don't ask who you want to be. They show who you already are. That's why they feel heavy. That's why they feel decisive. Because they aren't about the future. They're about the past catching up to you. So when an encounter arrives and everything suddenly feels serious, meaningful, unavoidable, remember, it didn't start there. It started in the silence you thought didn't matter, in the days you felt ignored, in the moments you believed nothing was happening. Silence was preparing something the whole time, shaping you quietly, patiently, honestly, waiting for the exact second it could no longer stay hidden, and the encounter could finally expose what you had really been becoming all along. Comfort is fragile. People treat it like armor, but it's really just padding, soft layers stacked between themselves and reality so nothing sharp can get through. Comfort is routines that never change, answers that never get questioned, relationships that never challenge you. It feels safe because it doesn't move, and that's exactly why it collapses the moment truth knocks. Truth never announces itself gently. It doesn't ask if now is a good time. It doesn't care if you're tired, busy, or finally feeling okay. Truth knocks when the door has been locked too long, when the air inside gets stale, when pretending starts costing more than admitting. And comfort hates that sound. Comfort wants silence. Truth brings vibration. The problem with comfort is that it trains you to confuse peace with avoidance. You start believing that if nothing feels wrong, nothing is wrong. You decorate your habits, justify your compromises, call numbness balance. Comfort rewards stillness even when growth is required. It whispers, stay here, don't risk it, don't look too closely. And for a while that whisper works, then truth shows up and comfort has no defense. Truth asks questions comfort can't answer. Why are you still here? Why did you stop trying? Why are you settling for less than what you know you're capable of? Comfort collapses because it was never built to withstand honesty. It was built to delay it. People panic when truth knocks because it threatens the version of life they carefully arranged, the routine that kept pain predictable, the story that explained disappointment without demanding change. Comfort doesn't want solutions, it wants continuity. Truth breaks continuity. It rearranges priorities. It exposes the cost of staying the same. When truth arrives, comfort reveals its weakness immediately. You feel restless, irritated, defensive. You want to scroll, distract, sleep, joke it away. That's comfort fighting for survival. Because truth doesn't just ask to be heard, it demands response. And response means movement. Movement means risk. Risk means the end of comfortable pretending. Truth doesn't need to be loud to be destructive to comfort. Sometimes it's just a sentence, a look, a realization that lands quietly and refuses to leave. You try to ignore it, but comfort has already cracked. Once truth is seen, comfort can't reveal the illusion. The mind keeps circling back. The quiet gets heavier. The routine feels hollow. Comfort collapses first internally. Before anything changes on the outside, something shifts inside you. What used to soothe you now irritates you. What used to feel fine now feels fake. You start noticing how much energy it takes to maintain appearances. That's truth working its way in. Dismantling comfort piece by piece. People blame truth for the discomfort like it's the problem. But truth didn't create the instability. It exposed it. Comfort was hiding decay. Truth just turned on the light. And light is violent to things that survive in the dark. That's why comfort frames truth as cruel, inconvenient, unnecessary. Anything to avoid accountability. Once comfort collapses, there's a moment of free fall. No cushion, no script, no familiar excuse to lean on. That's the moment people either rebuild honestly or rush to replace comfort with a new illusion. New routines, new distractions, new stories that feel safer than facing the rawness of change. Truth doesn't rush you, but it doesn't leave either. It waits in the doorway, patient, watching what you do once comfort is gone, whether you fortify yourself with discipline or retreat back into denial, whether you accept the discomfort as growth or treat it like a wound to be covered up. Comfort teaches you how to stay the same. Truth teaches you how to move. Comfort says survive. Truth says become. That's why they can't coexist. The moment truth knocks, comfort's expiration date is triggered. You can ignore the knock, but you can't pretend you didn't hear it. People who cling to comfort after truth arrives become bitter. They resent change. They resent messengers. They resent reminders. Because everything becomes a threat to the fragile setup they're trying to preserve. But people who accept the collapse of comfort gain something dangerous. Clarity. And clarity doesn't negotiate with fear when comfort collapses. Excuses sound childish. Delays feel expensive. You realize how much time was traded for convenience. That awareness hurts, not because truth is cruel, but because honesty shows you what you could have. In building instead of maintaining truth, knocking is not an attack. It's an invitation disguised as disruption, an offer to trade comfort for alignment, to trade padding for strength, to trade quiet stagnation for loud growth. Comfort collapses because it was never meant to last. It was meant to get you through, not keep you there. And once truth arrives, staying comfortable becomes impossible because you now know too much to keep lying to yourself, and that knowledge sits with you, heavy and awake, long after the knock fades and the door is still standing there waiting for you to decide whether you're going to rebuild on something real or keep propping up what already fell apart. Funny thing about blessings, people always expect them to arrive wrapped up in something nice, something easy, something that makes them smile. They think if something good is coming, life should start feeling good first. Like the skies will clear, the road will smooth out, and everything will start falling into place. But that's not how it works, is it? No, no, no. Before something big happens, before something truly worthwhile comes your way, life gets messy, chaotic, uncomfortable. And most people, they mistake that for a sign that things are going wrong, when really, it's just part of the process. People always panic when things start falling apart. They scramble, they fight, they cling to the pieces, desperate to put everything back the way it was. Like a child trying to glue a broken toy together, convinced it can still work, even when it's in 100 little shards. But what they don't see, what they never see, is that maybe, just maybe, it was never meant to stay together in the first place. Maybe it was supposed to break. Maybe that's the point. People spend their whole lives trying to hold on to things that were only meant to be temporary. They grip onto jobs that drain them, relationships that suffocate them, identities that no longer fit. They tell themselves, this is who I am, this is what I need. But life has a funny way of taking away everything that isn't actually meant for you. And when it happens, when the walls start crumbling, when the road disappears, when the things you were so sure of suddenly slip through your fingers, you think it's a disaster. You think you're being punished. You think it's the end. But maybe it's not the end at all. Maybe it's the beginning of something better, something bigger, something that actually fits. People assume that blessings arrive wrapped in something nice, something obvious, something that makes them feel good. They expect the road to get easier, the weight to lift, the answers to fall right into their lap. But that's not how it works, is it? No, no, no. When something good is coming, life doesn't just hand it to you. It prepares you for it. And preparation, oh, that's where it gets messy, because preparation looks a whole lot like destruction. It looks like losing things you thought you needed. It looks like watching plans collapse, watching people walk away, watching your whole world tilt on its axis until you can't even tell which way is up anymore. And in that moment, all you can think is, why? Why now? Why this? Why does everything that once felt certain suddenly feel like quicksand? But the real question isn't, why is this happening to me? The real question is, what is this clearing the way for? People don't like change. They say they do, they pretend they do, but when it really happens, when it actually starts to shake things up, they resist. They fight against it. They try to force things back to the way they used to be, because at least that way it's familiar. Even if it's bad for them, even if it's holding them back, they'll still choose it just because it's comfortable. That's the biggest trick of all, isn't it? People would rather stay miserable in a familiar place than take a step into the unknown. And life knows that. Life sees that. So sometimes it doesn't ask you to let go, it forces you. It rips things away, shatters illusions, burns the bridges you were too afraid to walk away from, and when it happens, when everything you were holding on to slips away, you think you're losing. You think you've hit rock bottom. But what if you're not losing? What if you're just making room? You can't build something new with your hands full of broken pieces. You can't step into the next chapter while clinging to a story that's already over. You can't receive what's meant for you while still trying to hold on to what's comfortable. But people don't see it like that, do they? No, they see things breaking, and they assume it's all going wrong. They assume life is against them, that everything is falling apart for no reason. They don't realize that sometimes things have to fall apart so something better can fall into place. People love to talk about faith, about trust, about believing that something greater is at work. But the second things start to get uncomfortable, the second life starts pulling things away, they forget everything they said about trusting the process. Because it's easy to believe in something good when everything feels good. But real faith, real trust, that happens when things don't make sense. When everything looks like it's falling apart and you still believe something better is coming. That's the part nobody wants to hear. They want the blessing without the breaking. They want the reward without the test. But it doesn't work like that. It never works like that. So the next time things start falling apart, the next time life pulls the rug out from under you, take a step back, look around. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking, what is this making space for? Because maybe, just maybe, nothing is actually falling apart. Maybe everything is just falling into place. People think discomfort means something is wrong, that if they're uneasy, lost, uncertain, if they feel that itch under their skin that won't go away, then they must have made a mistake. They must have taken the wrong path, made the wrong choice, landed somewhere they don't belong. But that's the lie, isn't it? That's the trick the mind plays. Because discomfort, oh, that's not a sign that you're lost. That's a sign that you're growing. And growth never feels good. See, people want to change, they want to evolve, they want to become something more. But they don't actually want to go through the part that hurts. They love the idea of transformation, of waking up one day stronger, wiser, better. But when the real work starts, when things start shifting, breaking, stretching in ways they didn't expect, that's when they panic. That's when they start looking for a way out, because they thought growth would feel inspiring, empowering, easy. But real growth, real change, that feels like pressure. That feels like standing in the fire while everything you thought you were melts away. The funny thing is, people say they want better, but they expect to get there while staying the same. They think they can just wake up one day with a brand new life while holding on to the same fears, the same habits, the same mindset that's been keeping them small. But the universe doesn't work like that. No, no, no. It will make you uncomfortable before it makes you stronger. It will push you, stretch you, force you into situations where you have no choice but to let go of the person you used to be. And the worst part? It won't ask your permission first. People get stuck in comfort zones like quicksand. They sink deeper and deeper, telling themselves they're fine, that there's no reason to move, that things aren't that bad. And maybe they're not. Maybe things are just good enough to keep them there, just safe enough to convince them to stay still. But deep down, they feel it, that pull, that whisper, that nagging feeling that they were meant for something more. And they ignore it. They push it down. Because stepping into something new, that means risking failure. That means stepping into the unknown. And oh, people hate the unknown. They'd rather stay in a life that drains them than take a chance on something better. But when life wants you to grow, when it's time for you to step into something greater, it won't let you stay comfortable. It will start making the things you once settled for unbearable. It will turn the places you used to feel safe into places you can't stand to be in anymore. It will make the conversations, the routines, the familiar things you once clung to feel empty, dull, suffocating. And when that happens, you have two choices. You can listen or you can fight it. Most people fight it, they resist, they hold on even tighter, they convince themselves that if they just wait long enough, things will go back to normal. But there is no going back. The moment you start feeling that discomfort, that shift, that pull towards something else, that's your sign. That's life giving you a choice. Stay where you are or step into something new. But stepping into something new, oh, that requires something most people don't have. It requires trust. People love to talk about trusting the process, about believing that things are happening for a reason. But when they start feeling lost, when nothing makes sense, when they're standing in the middle of uncertainty with no clear answers, that's when their faith crumbles. That's when they start looking for a way to retreat, to go back to what's safe. But trust, real trust, that happens when you don't have a single clue what's coming next, but you keep moving anyway. The thing about discomfort is that it's never random. It doesn't show up just to mess with you, just to make your life harder. It shows up to push you, to wake you up, to shake you out of the illusion that you can stay the same and still become everything you're meant to be. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Strength isn't built in easy times. And if life has started to feel uneasy, if the things that once felt fine suddenly feel unbearable, if you're questioning everything, maybe that's not a sign that something is wrong. Maybe that's the sign that everything is about to change. People think when someone walks away, it's a loss. That if someone leaves, if they cut ties, if they drift into the background of your life like a character written out of a script, it means something went wrong, that something should have been done differently. That maybe, just maybe, if they had said the right words, made the right moves, played the game just right, that person would have stayed. But that's the joke, isn't it? Thinking people leave because of something you did. Thinking their exit is a reflection of your worth. Thinking you had control over any of it in the first place. The truth is, not everyone is meant to stay. Some people, they're just passing through. Temporary roles in a story that was never theirs to finish. But people don't like that idea. No, they want permanence. They want guarantees. They want to believe that every person who walks into their life is meant to be there forever. And when reality proves them wrong, when someone they thought would always be there suddenly isn't, they take it personally. They call it betrayal. They call it abandonment. They sit there wondering what they did to deserve it, when the real question is, what if this was supposed to happen? What if this was the plan all along? See, people like to think relationships are built to last. But the real world? The real world runs on expiration dates. Friendships, partnerships, connections. Most of them aren't built to go the distance. And yet people fight against that truth. They hold on to people who have already let go of them. They try to resuscitate relationships that have already flatlined. They keep calling, keep texting, keep trying to squeeze life out of something that's already gone cold. But the longer you hold on to someone who isn't meant to stay, the longer you delay the people who are. The universe doesn't take people away to punish you. It removes them to clear the path. Maybe they were blocking your growth. Maybe they were distracting you from where you were actually supposed to go. Maybe you had to lose them so you could finally find you. But people don't see it that way. They think if someone mattered, if someone made them feel something real, then they should have stayed. But just because someone had a purpose in your story doesn't mean they were supposed to be in every chapter. People don't like to admit how much they outgrow others. They'd rather shrink themselves down, dull their edges, fit into old spaces that no longer match who they've become. They tell themselves they have to stay connected, that history means something, that loyalty means never letting go. But what about loyalty to yourself? What about the version of you that's been trying to evolve, trying to move forward, trying to become something more? You can't grow while holding on to people who only know how to love the old you. You can't step into your next phase of life while dragging ghosts from the past behind you. Sometimes people leave because they were never meant to go where you're headed. They served their purpose. They taught their lesson, they played their part, and now they're gone. And maybe that's exactly how it's supposed to be. But that's not what most people want to hear, is it? No, they want to believe they can fix things. That if they hold on tighter, if they try harder, if they do more, they can change the outcome. But what if the outcome was already decided? What if they were always going to leave? People forget that not everyone is built to handle your evolution. That some people only loved you because you fit into the version of yourself that was convenient for them. That the second you started changing, growing, stepping into who you were actually meant to be, they started pulling away. And that wasn't a betrayal. That was a reveal. That was life showing you exactly who was temporary and who was real. So let them go. Let them walk. Let them disappear into the background like they were always meant to. Because the ones who matter, the ones who are meant to stay, you'll never have to beg them to be there. People think when a door closes, it's a bad thing. That when something doesn't work out, when an opportunity vanishes, when a path they swore was meant for them suddenly disappears, it means they've failed. It means they weren't good enough, weren't smart enough, weren't worthy enough. And so they sit there, staring at that locked door, banging on it, begging for it to open again, convinced that if they just try hard enough, they can force their way back in. But that's the joke, isn't it? Thinking they're supposed to go backward. Thinking that just because something looked right, it was right. Thinking they know better than whatever force is out there moving the pieces. People love the illusion of control. They love to believe they have everything mapped out. That if they just follow the plan, follow the rules, do everything right, then nothing will go wrong. But the second life throws a wrench in their perfect little blueprint, oh, they hate that. They fight it. They scream, they curse, they look up at the sky and ask, why me? as if life is supposed to cater to them, as if things aren't happening exactly the way they need to happen. Because here's the thing, doors don't close to punish you. They close because you were never meant to walk through them in the first place. Oh, but people don't like that answer. They want explanations. They want reasons. They want someone to tell them why that relationship ended, why they lost that job, why that plan they were so sure of suddenly collapsed. And when they don't get their answer right away, they spiral. They convince themselves that they did something wrong, that if they had been better, smarter, more prepared, then maybe things would have worked out. But what they don't realize is that sometimes the worst thing that could ever happen to them is actually the best thing that could have happened. They just don't see it yet. People get so attached to their own ideas of what their life is supposed to look like. They obsess over certain jobs, certain relationships, certain plans, convincing themselves that if they don't get this, then nothing else will ever be as good. So when life takes it away, when it slams a door shut right in their face, they break, they crumble. They act like everything is over, like there's nothing left for them, but oh, if only they knew. If only they could see what's waiting on the other side of all that grief, all that disappointment, all that loss. Because here's the thing about closed doors. They're not just keeping you out of something, they're keeping something out of you. Maybe that job wasn't meant for you because it would have drained you, suffocated you, turned you into someone you were never supposed to be. Maybe that person you swore you couldn't live without would have ended up destroying you. Maybe that opportunity you're so angry about losing would have taken you in the wrong direction entirely. But you don't see that, do you? No, all you see is the rejection. All you feel is the sting of being told no. But sometimes no is the greatest gift you'll ever receive. People act like they want what's best for them, but the second life starts removing things, the second doors start closing, they panic. They chase after things that aren't meant for them. They sit outside doors that are locked, wasting time, wasting energy, waiting for something that's never coming back. And meanwhile, somewhere else, a door is opening. A better one, a bigger one that leads exactly where they were meant to go. But they're too busy mourning what they thought they wanted to even notice. The problem isn't that life takes things away. The problem is that people don't trust what comes next. They don't trust that if something didn't work out, it wasn't supposed to. They don't trust that every door that closes is just making room for the one that's actually meant for them. They'd rather sit there broken and bitter, convincing themselves that they lost something irreplaceable. But if something was truly meant for you, nothing could take it away. And if it was taken away, then it was never meant for you in the first place. People think waiting means nothing is happening. That if life slows down, if things stop moving, if the phone isn't ringing and the opportunities aren't knocking, it means they've been forgotten, that they're stuck, that they're wasting time. And that drives people insane. Because they want movement, they want action, they want things to be happening now. And when they don't get that, oh, they panic. They start clawing at the walls, looking for any way to force things to happen faster. Because the last thing people want to do is wait. See, people love to talk about patience, but the truth, they don't have any. They want results before they put in the work. They want answers before the questions even make sense. They want things to come together without ever having to sit through the part where everything falls apart. And when life tells them not yet, When things don't go their way right away, they act like the world has turned its back on them. They convince themselves that if something isn't happening immediately, it's never going to happen at all. But that's not how it works, is it? No, no, no. The universe isn't some vending machine where you press a button and get what you want instantly. It moves on its own time. It shifts things behind the scenes, rearranges the pieces, makes sure everything is exactly where it needs to be before it hands it over to you. But people, oh, they don't want to hear that. They want what they want, and they want it now. So they rush, they settle, they take whatever they can get because the idea of waiting terrifies them. They convince themselves that something less is better than nothing at all. They lower their standards, make desperate choices, force things into existence that were never meant to be. And then they wonder why they feel empty, why nothing seems to fit, why they're standing in the middle of the life they thought they wanted, and it still doesn't feel right. That's what happens when you don't trust the wait. You end up with a version of your life that was built out of impatience, out of fear, out of the desperate need to feel like you're doing something, even when doing nothing was exactly what you were supposed to be doing. But people don't see that. No, they think if they're not constantly moving, constantly achieving, constantly winning, then they're losing. They don't understand that sometimes the pause isn't punishment, it's preparation. Life doesn't make you wait to hurt you, it makes you wait because you're not ready yet. Because the things you're asking for, the things you're dreaming about, the things you think you want, you couldn't even handle them right now. You're not strong enough yet, not wise enough yet, not the person you need to be to receive it yet. But try telling that to someone who's desperate for change. Try telling that to someone who's been waiting for years, feeling like they're stuck in the same place, watching everyone else move forward while they stand still. Oh, they won't believe you. They'll say it's unfair, that they've earned it, that they deserve it. But the truth is, some things are bigger than what you deserve. Because this isn't about fairness. It's not about what's owed to you. It's about timing. It's about alignment. It's about the version of you that exists right now, not being ready for the version of the life you're meant to have. And that's what people don't get. They think waiting is punishment, that it means they're not good enough, that it means they're being overlooked, but really it means they're becoming. It means they're in the process of turning into the person who will know what to do when the time finally comes. But most people don't want to wait. They want shortcuts. They want instant gratification. They want to wake up one day and suddenly have everything they've ever wanted without having to sit through the part where it feels impossible. But the longer they fight the wait, the longer they resist it, the longer they ignore the lesson in it, the longer they delay everything that's already meant for them. Because here's the thing about patience. It's not about sitting around doing nothing. It's about trusting that the time you spend waiting isn't time wasted at all. People love to say they want change. They talk about it like it's this magical thing, this grand transformation that'll suddenly make everything better. Oh, if only things were different. If only life would just shift in my favor. They want change. But the second life starts shaking things up, the second things stop feeling comfortable, the second everything they thought was solid starts to crack, oh, now they're scared. Now they're clinging to the old, to the familiar, to the very thing they swore they wanted to escape from. Because the truth is, people don't really want change. They want the idea of it. the version that doesn't require them to actually go through anything difficult. See, change isn't some gentle little breeze that sweeps through your life and politely asks for permission. No, no, no. It comes like a storm. It rips things apart. It tears things down. It takes away the things you thought you couldn't live without. And then it just watches what you do next. Because that's the thing about change. It doesn't care if you're ready. It doesn't wait for you to feel comfortable. It comes when it needs to, whether you like it or not. But people, they don't like that part. They like stability. They like knowing what's next. They like waking up in the morning and feeling like everything is under control. And when change comes in and flips everything upside down, when the routine breaks, when the plan collapses, when nothing feels certain anymore, oh, now they start panicking. Why is this happening? What did I do to deserve this? As if change is some kind of punishment, as if life is out to get them just because things aren't staying exactly the way they want them to. But that's the joke, isn't it? Thinking things were ever supposed to stay the same. Thinking life is meant to be predictable, steady, safe. But nothing real grows in comfort. Nothing worth having comes without disruption. You don't just wake up one day and become the person you're supposed to be. No, you get broken into it. You get stripped down, torn apart, pushed to your limits. Everything that isn't real about you, everything that's holding you back, everything that's keeping you small, it has to go. And that is what change really is. But people love to resist. They cling to the past like it's a lifeline. They fight to hold on to things that are already slipping through their fingers. They beg for old relationships to stay, for old versions of themselves to remain intact, for life to just slow down and stop forcing them to move forward. But what they don't realize is that the more they fight it, the worse it gets. Because change doesn't lose. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care how much you beg. It takes what it needs to take, and it doesn't look back. That's why people struggle. That's why they sit there feeling like everything is falling apart. Because they don't understand that nothing is falling apart. It's falling into place. They think life is being unfair when really, it's doing them a favor. It's moving the pieces, shifting the path, clearing the way for something better. But oh, people don't see that when they're in the middle of it. No, all they see is loss. All they feel is fear. They don't realize that the things being taken from them were never meant to last in the first place. See, the thing about change is that it forces you to become something else. It forces you to let go of things you thought were permanent. It forces you to trust the unknown, to step into spaces you've never been before, to become something new. And that terrifies people. Because they don't know who they are without the things they're losing. They don't know what's waiting for them on the other side. They don't know if they can handle it, but the funny part, they don't have a choice. Because change doesn't ask, it just is. It doesn't care if you're ready. It doesn't wait until you feel strong enough. It just happens. You either adapt or you get left behind. You either trust that everything being removed is making space for something bigger, or you sit there stuck watching your old life fade away while you refuse to step into the new one. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you want. Change is coming, whether you're ready for it or not.